Welcome to the Attack Action Podcast,
where we talk about friendship, fun times, and most importantly, flesh and blood. Here are your hosts, Taylor and Isaac.
Hello, Attactioneers. That's right. I'm back. And I'm also here with Isaac, as always. What's up, Isaac?
Morning.
Good morning.
Want to have a cup of coffee and talk some ProQuest?
Of course. Got my coffee right here.
Perfect.
Sound effect. Little ASMR for the listeners at home.
That's our other cast.
Yeah, the secret one. You got to hit the secret Patreon tier to get that one. Right on. Well, yeah, today we're going to be talking about our recent experience in Portland for ProQuest Week 2. Before we get there, I wanted to do a quick plug for our Patreon. So my wife has been working on this new art for a playmat just all by herself and inspired by the potions and the Everfest vibe and that sort of thing. And it's starting to look really cool, and we'll send out a preview soon, but there will be limited qualities of this new alchemy shop playmat.
Quantities, not limited quality.
Oh, right. Sorry.
Great quality.
Great quality, limited quantity. And it'll be exclusive to the top tier in the Patreon. So if that's something you are interested in and that's tickled your fancy, then consider supporting us. There will be, they're like gold foils basically before gold foils were too crazy.
Yeah, and also more rare, so therefore more valuable.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Seriously, though, it does look really, really good. I'm very excited to have and play with this playmat. She's doing a great job.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I'm very proud of her. And I didn't even ask her, really. She just kind of just went and is doing it. So it's pretty sweet.
Nice.
Yeah.
So for this episode, we actually hadn't planned this episode at this time on this topic, but we had such a good ProQuest weekend and find that the meta and how it's evolving in the fab world right now is actually pretty interesting to discuss. So we just wanted to talk about last weekend and our experience, as well as what's happening in general across the board.
Yep, 100% nail on the head. But before we get to that, we don't really have any news this week, but we do have some shout outs. Isaac, how about you start it off?
All right. First of all, I wanted to shout out Fabrica. They're a content creator for Flesh and Blood, and they've been at it quite a long time, making good stuff. But right now they're caught up in the conflict over in Ukraine, and I hope they're safe and sound, and this all gets put in the past sooner than later, and they can get back to, playing cards and enjoying life. So everybody caught up over there, including Fabrica. Yeah, we really feel for you.
Totally. Our hearts go out to our Ukrainian brothers and sisters for sure. Great shout out. I would like to shout out our amazing team members. So
woo!
Yeah, so out of our team this weekend, Yuki won the ProQuest that we were at in Portland, which we will get to, but watching her get to play in person against the general population, you're like, aha, this is why you're a national champ. You just get so used to it when you're testing with Yuki, and then you just see her just calmly, methodically, like a machine,
dismantle
the whole tournament. Yeah. And then another big shout out to Zane, nicest guy in flesh and blood. He's so psyched, and I'm really just super proud of him that he won his ProQuest over at Kingslayer Games. So great job, Zane. Super proud of you. And
Totally.
he's
Zane is also an excellent player, so we were
yeah.
pretty psyched to have him get something under his belt. It's very, very
I
cool.
He was saying this morning that the secret to his success is that he's just stolen Zach Bunn's whole look, and that has really helped propel him into the winner's circle. So
Look good, feel good, play good. You
yeah,
know, our
totally.
team motto. One of them.
Yeah, totally. And if you haven't seen the insane resemblance, just go check out Fab or Team Covenant's Discord. It's kind of uncanny. Another big shout out to new friend Archer. We got to hang out with him Friday, the day before the ProQuest at Discs and Dice, and homie was just like really psyched, super nice. Yeah, just really cool dude. He's into selvage denim, which is cool. We didn't talk about that, but game recognized game, you know what I mean?
Nice. I'll add a Pankaj to that. Hopefully,
Oh
I'm
yeah.
saying your name right, but also a really nice dude. I played him on camera actually, and just like, uh, it was great going up to Portland. That community is wonderful, and there were so many nice people. I forgot his name, but somebody came up to me day 2 and just told us how much he liked the cast, and it was like really nice to meet him. And that whole encounter was just great. And then he went undefeated in Swiss, and it was his birthday. So that dude was just having a great day.
Oh, awesome.
And, anyway, it just goes on and on, but we had a blast. Hanging out with everybody, shooting the shit.
Hell yeah. Okay, before we get into the tournament stuff, I believe, Isaac, you have procured some listener mail and have a question.
Sure, we don't have any like teaser news for our little our giveaway.
Oh, right. I
Do you
totally
want
forgot
to?
about that. So
Okay.
yeah, I was trying to think of that before when you moved into the like Fabrica, Ukraine news, and I was like, whoa, dang, there was something I
Oh
wanted.
yeah,
Anyway,
that'll derail you.
yeah. So yeah, we are working with LSS to do a giveaway upcoming. Details coming soon, but know that it's pretty excellent prizes we will be giving away for the upcoming calling season. So be prepared for that and make sure you're subscribed and all that stuff so you don't miss out on the details of how we're going to distribute those things or how you got to enter into the sweepstakes and that sort of
Totally.
thing.
Those deets could be anywhere. You gotta like, subscribe, comment, Patreon, like everything we got, so you
Totally.
don't miss out.
Yep. Just bathe yourself in Attack Action Podcast social media. All right, listener mail.
Yep, let's do it. So we had a listener mail from Ice in My Veins Gaming, which is a pretty cool name. And they said, my girlfriend decided to play Ice Lexi recently because she wanted a good deck in this meta that was aggressive but could pressure in different ways. So what would be your advice for someone who wants to master that deck?
So no problem here. Okay, so first off, make Taylor your best friend. Second off, spend years playing Azalea and getting beat up by Taylor to then eventually edge out some wins and make Taylor super annoyed by losing to Azalea. Then wait around for Lexi, the superior ranger, to be released. Use all of said background to just pilot Lexi to near victory. Is that about right?
Got it. Yeah. So you should probably get started on your years of Azalea practice now so that,
Yeah, you
yes.
got it. You have to go through the hard trials that every
Yeah.
Ranger player
The
has gone
gauntlet.
through.
I tell you, Lexi feels very powerful and easy in contrast. So, um, so in all seriousness, unfortunately, this isn't a very like some decks, right? You know, like Lightning Briar, you're kind of just doing your thing, or Fatigue Oldhim, right? You're kind of just executing your game plan, and as you play matchups more, obviously you'll get better at them and the sideboarding and the nuances of that match. But Lexi is more about not so much just executing your game plan, but evaluating every single turn in your opponent's game plan and deciding how to best manage the tempo of that. So it's a deck that rewards you for reps, really, and reps for each particular matchup. And I know that's not a very easy answer. I'm actually going to be writing a Lexi 101 coming up in the Wraith Times, where I'll try to like delve into, you know, managing Lexi's different mechanics and all that. But it's just, I don't know. I don't know how to have a better answer. It's like really, it's just like tempo management, right? Um, you know, if you're in a aggro or tempo matchup, you you play out an arrow and then you weigh how your opponent responds, right? If they don't block and then pitch a blue for the hit effect and have two floating, or if they do block with two cards and they only have two left and none in arsenal, then you're going to have to shift your game plan basically just based on every single play. Because you can do kind of unique things with Lexi in that you can uh, play an arrow, fuse within Winter's Bite, and then you could choose to play that Winter's Bite and then set up a 6-card hand, or you could then choose to play another pumped arrow and arsenal the Winter's Bite, and it's just a ever evolving, um, you know, ever evolving game plan, I guess. If your opponent switches to fatigue and just starts blocking you out, then you know, make use of your bigger turns. You play a channel on an off turn and then set up a 6-card hand to go 3 wide. You prioritize arsenaling arrows, maybe. You know, it's really it's just a hard question because it's not so much about, like, by comparison, I also have an aggressive Lexi list, and you're just playing your cards. They play a CNC or they like make you do something, then you just decide and do it. But otherwise, you're just playing your game. But Ice Lexi, unfortunately, it's a really fun and rewarding deck to play, and it makes your opponents really suffer and have to think a lot, which is like pretty entertaining on your end. But it's like kind of exhausting and kind of taxing. And as you get more familiar with it, you'll be able to just kind of move through it more easily, and, you know, not have to like sit and grind your brain for every decision. But it's you know, it's definitely like a medium or so difficulty deck, not one to just net deck and pick up, because you know, I mean, you can just play out your cards, but your wins come from managing the game state and managing the overall game, not just like, oh, I drew this hand, so I'll play it out. Because the damage ceiling on that deck is quite low, so you definitely need to, you know, be very cognizant of what you're doing. Two last things, and then we'll move on. A lot of times you'll go down on life working through your opponent's armor, which is like a bit scary. But once you've worked through their armor, your life becomes a lot easier. So you're technically winning the game if they have no armor left and you're at, you know, 14 and they're at like 26, because you still have enough life to pivot and they don't have any way to block you out. Frostbites make defense reactions cost an extra resource to play, so that's quite powerful. And the Amulet of Ice is so good. Definitely in certain matchups prioritize getting that out, because then it floats there and your opponent always has to consider it, and
Mm-hmm.
it's like a better Winter's Bite
Mm-hmm.
at any time at instant
Mm-hmm.
speed. So depending on how they're playing mid chain, at the end of their chain, if you have kind of a lesser turn and it looks like they can, be able to power through and seize the game. If you have two of them out, it strips two cards, no matter what. It's just like an extraordinarily powerful tool. And it's a blue, which is very good. So anyway, that's my little Ice Lexi rant. Sorry, I'm sorry we talk about Lexi so much, but uh, you can look for my article. I'm going to try to make a video on ratios coming up on our channel soon. So very complex topic. Get your reps in. Sorry, there's no easy answer. Practice.
Oh, sorry. I just woke up from my long nap after what seemed like eternity there.
I'm sorry you're so bored.
No, I'm just kidding. It was good. I like it when you go down the rabbit hole. I'm always like, wow, you know,
Totally. Well, it's like if somebody asked you, so how do I win every matchup with Viserai?
totally. I don't know. You get lucky. Okay. Shall we move into the main topic for today?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, sweet. So me, Isaac, Johnny Blue Razor, Canadian national champ Yuki, we all met up in Portland for a ProQuest at Discs and Dice, aka Fab Foundry. Um, and what an amazing store. So it's actually in Troutdale, which is a cute little town, but great store, brand new. We're gonna have the owner, Travis, aka On It, on the podcast as soon as possible, so he can tell you his uh, incredible story from creating all of this during the pandemic, and now has a real brick and mortar store and basically hosted the Calling Portland this weekend. So it was pretty awesome. So there's actually a primer event on Friday, and I had hit some traffic on my drive up, so I showed up 5 minutes before it started after driving 7.5 hours. Just got out, grabbed my deck, and started playing. And in my first match, I was like, "Oh God, my brain is just like not working." So, but it was great to play 4 rounds of Swiss and then feel like a little bit more warmed up for the weekend.
Yeah, totally. I played Kano that evening because well, I'm not very close to our local armory. We don't have a lot of events, so like a situation where I get to just like play a few games for fun is a
Mhm.
great opportunity. And I don't know if Kano's there, but that deck's extremely powerful now. Um,
Yeah, you did some kind of crazy deja vu combo uh, when we played on
yeah,
Friday, and I was like, "Oh my God, this is here comes like 28 damage,"
yeah, definitely.
which
It's
was crazy.
that that deck's going to be fun to explore. And everything about this event, just, I mean, we already knew how passionate On It was about this game, but everything about this event just like reinforced, and seeing him in person run the pre-event, the event itself, the
Mhm.
after party, the extra decorations, that like everything about it was just like, he really loves what he does and loved putting this on. And just, they had a hitch free stream of the event the whole time. It was insane. It was really, really great. So great job on it.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably the second most talked about topic for us on the weekend. You know, first obviously was our gameplay and the meta, but then the second thing was just like, this is really going above and beyond what a ProQuest should be, and is like the best event any of us had been to ever, you know? And it's for just like a bunch of reasons. So they wound up renting the empty shop space right next to their store, and then they decorated the whole inside of the shop as you if you were like inside the big tent at Everfest. So it looks like the inside of a tent, and there's like a red carpet, and um, all the tables were nicely spaced out, and every player had like plenty of room and that sort of thing. Um, and you know, shout out to Red Zone Rogue, was just hanging out. He's probably going to have like a vlog coming out soon about that. So it was nice to meet him in person as well. Um, and then before the event started, they had cosplayers. Like Onnit's brother was dressed up as Bravo, star of the show. From He was dressed as Bravo at whatever it was, the Vegas calling. And then they had other friends of his dressed up as Bingo and the you know,
The fire breathing.
fire breathing
Yeah.
cosplay, and it was awesome. They had like little music, and they were dancing around and talking with the crowd and stuff, and it's just like, wow, all of this for a ProQuest. This is amazing, you
Yeah.
know.
They had little color coordinated to the theme paracord bracelets that they
Oh
gave
yeah.
out to every attendee that I
Yeah.
think Onnit's mom made, and they were all
Hmm.
like unique and very beautiful.
Yeah, so we all got one and wore one all day, like everybody at the event. That was like one of my favorite things, is just like seeing everybody wearing those bracelets, and you know it felt like we were just, I don't know, all a part of something.
At a festival.
Yeah, at a cool little club. It was
Yeah.
great. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then they streamed the event too, so you can go check that out on the Fab Foundry YouTube page. So it was
Right.
like
We could
all of
probably
go ahead.
put that link in the show notes because it's still up. It's still available to watch
Yeah,
if you want to watch.
totally.
Um, I played a game on stream actually, and then Yuki plays the final on stream. Um,
Yeah,
there's
I
a
think
really good
yeah.
Viscerai versus Starvo semifinals on stream.
Oh
I
yeah.
mean, it's like some good play.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, so just all of these things are happening before the tournament even starts. And shout out to the head judge. He had a great loud voice and was really on it, getting the rounds moving along and that sort of thing. Like the tournament went so well that they had a planned like half-hour lunch after round 4, and it did not feel like it added uh, a super long time to the day or the event at all. That's how smoothly rounds finished and got paired, and then it allowed us to have a little break, which is super great because um, these things are long, especially if you make top 8. So getting a tiny break is really good.
Yeah, I mean, I can't imagine how hard it is to run one of these things like herding a bunch of cats, but
Mm-hmm.
just having on it actually pull it off and start every round on time and having a lunch break is so much better than having a undetermined 6 to 17 minutes in between each round and you
Mm-hmm.
don't know how long the break will be,
Yeah.
and then having it run late and all that. So this was great. Went and got lunch.
Yeah. Excellent. And the new 55-minute rule, I think that's now in tournaments, is much appreciated. I really like that, having 55 minutes to sideboard and that sort of thing. Pre-game prep just
Yeah,
made it
that
feel less. You just feel less anxious going into the round.
I mean that's how it always should have been. It's just like because some earlier events I went to is like they'd announce it and then it would start ticking down from 50 like as you were sitting down, and you're like,
Yeah.
what? I thought,
Yeah.
just because they're trying to like move the event along, which I don't blame them, but it was really weird. This 55 is definitely the way to go, because then you actually get a 50-minute round.
Yeah, for sure. Um, okay, so do you want to talk about some of our highlights from the event, um, in some particulars?
Yeah, sure. So Yuki was on Prism and decided that about 5 minutes before the event started. Mitch was on Katsu. I was on Ice Lexi, and Taylor was on Viserai.
Yep.
Um, so from my end, I was definitely worried about Prisms, and I'd heard whisperings of Fatigue Starvos out there, which is kind of like Oldhim, which is a nightmare. But I was gonna play 2 events this weekend, so I just wanted to, bring this deck and like see how it played into the field, and then I can adapt
Hmm.
afterwards. Um, I ended up beating a Prism round 1, and then I played Taylor round 2.
Yeah, in what a grinder of a game. I mean, it went down to the last little bit there, and I had to pee so bad the whole time. It was really, really tough.
Yeah, it's like you said, you drive like 8 hours to then play your best friend, which happens sometimes, but it's just like it
Totally.
these 52-person events seems to happen to us quite a lot. Like last time I was in Portland, I played Thomas round 1.
Yeah.
There's 4 of us at this one, so the odds go up for sure, but still.
Yeah, I mean, totally. It was a great game, and propelled you into almost a top 8 finish. So you're welcome.
Yeah, thanks for taking one for the teammate.
Totally. And for all of y'all who are like, Ice Lexi's not that bad against Viserai, y'all are wrong. Okay, whatever Ice Lexis y'all been playing are not Isaac. Okay, and it's really hard to beat Isaac when he's on Ice Lexi. So,
Thanks.
um,
Yeah, I guess that's a takeaway. I feel like actually probably the Viserai Ice Lexi matchup is like an even match. Like Ice Lexi is actually a decent choice into Viserai, but unfortunately, as like Prism comes out, it becomes a tougher meta call. But it was like one of the decks that you can say like, oh, I do have a pretty good match into Viserai. So
yeah,
I don't know if your local card shop is just an army of Viserais. That's not a poor choice there. It feels
totally.
hard on both ends, I think. So definitely still have to play well, but
Yeah, 100%. It's just really disruptive. Quick note here on our ProQuest meta: we had 58 total players. The 3 most represented decks were in order: Starvo, Viserai, and then Prism, but they're all within just like a couple of one another. Um, and then some other middling stuff around there, but those were the 3 most heavily represented decks for sure. So just
unsurprisingly.
yeah, unsurprisingly for sure. Um, Yeah, so for me on the day I went 4-2, and my 2 losses were, one was to Isaac, and then the other one was to runner up Dexter, in the mirror, and that was like still a very good and close game. And Dexter came prepared. He came to play, baby. Um, and yeah, really good player, and he did really good through top 8 and stuff. And we were in a dicey point, and I think we played round 5, and both of us really needed to win to have any hope at top 8ing. So he got me, but
We'll see you next time, Dexter.
see, yeah, see you next time. I had a really great game also, I think round 4 against Justin Salmon. Um, and he was on Prism, and it was of a super, super, super close game. Uh, and just Prism is like pretty wild to play against now, because there's like, kind of this point where they have a board state that you like can no longer kind of manage. But if their health total is low enough, you can pressure them instead, to kind of like mitigate the million aura swings or whatever. And so that's kind of what that game turned out to be, is that like, you know, I had to keep pressuring Justin so he could not, improve his board state or swing back more damage than I could handle at me, in all of these things. And it was really, really close, and was, I think, maybe my favorite game of the weekend for sure.
Nice.
Yeah,
Yeah,
double
that
haze bending is insane. You're just like, well, now what do I do?
yeah, you got to get rid of those. That's pretty rough, or at least early. Um, I know Prism's really tough to play against now because it's like it just feels like if you make one mistake or like draw really bad once, then they just get incrementally ahead and there's like no coming back. Um, and they kind of just use their life as a resource to get their board state out because
Mhm.
there's like so many Prism games where they're on 8 health and you're on 24, but they're winning the game by a mile and there's no way you're going to win now, you
Yeah,
know.
next time you look at the score of that game, it's like 7-10 all of a sudden,
Yeah, yeah.
and you're like, what has happened? Yeah, yeah.
um, yeah, I had two. So my two losses came to kind of my fears. I went 1-1 against Prism on the day, and it's just kind of like if I come out pretty hot, and I can go first, really helps.
Mhm.
Then that game's actually pretty manageable. I can kind of like arsenal a free arrow to then pop an aura at the end and like pressure him before that, but it's hard for ice to go super wide. And anyway, I beat a Prism round 1 and then I lost to one round 5, and my loss was not even close. It was like he went first. I had a all non-attack 5-card hand turn 2 or 3 or something. I don't know. It's just like, yeah, not close at all. That was a that was a tough game. I also lost to a Starvo who flexed fatigue, um, which again I think in the mirror, or just if like I think this player just preferred the deck that way. Or against Lexi, if they side fatigue, they have the shield and the crown and that whole powerful situation there, and that's a pretty tough game to win, especially since boarding for aggro Starvo requires you to have like pretty dominant control of every turn. So then I didn't even bring in rain razors or anything. I just like was set for tempo, and he fatigued me pretty easily.
Mm.
So I also went 4-2 on the day, with my losses coming round 4 and 6.
Mm. Tough. Yeah,
Um,
you wound up uh, on that sixth round. That was your winning in, and you
yeah,
needed to win that to get top 8.
yeah, I ended up getting ninth, which is okay though. Going 4-2, I like didn't really feel like I should make top 8, and I also like didn't necessarily want to because the fatigue Starvo was up there. There was a couple prisms in there. It's just like it's like, ugh, I'm just gonna get in there and then like lose again.
Yeah, totally.
um, I mean, the Viscerais are fine, or I can kind of high roll the prisms, but it's just like it was not. It's not like if I snuck in, then I could pull it out and learn from my mistakes. It was like a pretty tough field.
Yeah, I think the top 8 at the event was 2 prisms, 2 viscera, and 4 starvos, I think.
Hmm.
Um, so which is fine, which is the representation of like the decks we saw at the event. So, makes a
Yeah.
ton of sense.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I think, if you want to kind of talk a little meta now again, or if there's anything else about the event in Swiss you wanted to, you know,
Nope.
talk about. No?
Sounds
Cool.
good.
Yeah. Okay. So this is my takeaway from the weekend. As a person who is still very much in playoff basketball mode, which I forgot to talk about at the beginning. We're in the state tournament now. Actually, we have our first round of state later today. So if you're hoping for
Woo!
basketball updates, there it is. So we got to travel right after I get done recording this podcast. Hopefully we win. Anyway, as a person like hopping back, like I didn't play week one, but was, analyzing the meta and stuff, and then hopping into week two for the meta. I was pretty surprised at how quickly already things had evolved and changed, right? Like the Starvo deck lists are a little different. We see a big uptick in the numbers across the board for Prism, right? So it goes from like it almost doubles in its numbers between week one and week two to kind of combat Starvo and that sort of thing. And
Yeah, not just in this event, but in all events.
yeah, yep, totally.
Yeah.
So what I'm uh, trying to say here is for me, it looks like the two best decks, like the two S tier decks, are Prism and Viscerai, and then right below that is the Starvo deck, which I still think can get targeted and maybe will get like pushed out a little bit more. But the new Prism Aura build with like, running Tunic and no tomes and, almost half auras is to me a real surprise that is like a real viable strategy, which just means I'm like, I don't play Prism, right?
Yeah.
So
I mean, it does have 27 cards that don't block. So you would think that it would be a bit more fragile, but it is
the blue
quite
ones
good.
block. The blue auras block for 2.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Great.
But
yeah, totally.
it's a sick deck. It's like the coolest Prism build I've ever seen, which there haven't been that many. But yeah, to me, it's like Prism and Viscerai. And I'm unsure of which deck has the advantage in that matchup. You talk to one person and they say, oh yeah, it's favored this way. You talk to another person that's favored this way. So it's both are afraid of each other, and whoever can kind of figure out whatever the sweet tech is for that other matchup is putting themselves at quite an advantage. That's kind of like the key right now, I think.
Definitely. One takeaway, looking at the data from all events too, one takeaway for me is also just Starvo still has the most event win, or the highest event win percentage and the highest top 8 percentage.
Mm-hmm.
I think that will wane. What's that?
It's also just like the most represented deck, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
but also has the highest top 8 win percentage as well.
Yeah.
And I think that will wane as more and more players adopt Prism and get better at Prism. But, the Starvo deck is like fairly aggressive and fairly easy to play, but it's also fairly adaptable, now that they're fatiguing Lexi or fatiguing the mirror, et cetera, and it, like adapting that deck kind of to me shows that, it's not only a glass cannon, like it has a bit more resiliency than I might have initially thought, and can still very much win matches. Although I'll tell you, I like watching a couple of Prism versus Starvo matches. It was like not good for the Starvo,
yeah.
like not like it wasn't gonna be they just have no ability to apply a ton of pressure and pop an aura. and
Yeah.
like get ahead that way. I mean,
Hmm.
yeah, you can cripple and crush one turn, but then the other two are you're just not applying enough pressure.
Well, and
So
then it's like they can play their just aura at instant speed, right?
yeah,
And then so then it's just damage, and they've improved their board state, you
yeah,
know. So yeah, it seems pretty tough. It seems
yeah,
pretty tough. And it's I really like it that these two decks are the top ones because they're both very difficult to play, Like playing Viscera is very hard, playing Prism in this new aura build is very hard, you know. Like you got to be practiced and you got to be on your game for
yeah. And
sure.
it's not like this clear cut, like you said. There, you're not sure who has the advantage. Really,
Yeah.
it's not a
And
very clear cut match, which is
yeah,
cool.
and that's the one of the coolest things too, right? Is that if no deck has the advantage really, then it's all up to player skill. And that's a really nice spot to be in.
Hmm.
That gets me hyped because week one I was like, great, it's just Starvo and they can just like roll you off the table. Like, not
Yeah,
really that fun. But if we're gonna have a lot of like, highly skilled matches in the meta now, then that's something I can for sure get behind. That is very exciting to me, and that's why I play this game, is for the skill of it, not the like, well, drew the nuts 3 turns in a row. I win. That's fun.
yeah. Like if there's like 20 Starvos, then one of them's gonna like roll pretty hot.
Yeah, yeah,
um,
totally.
Not again, like every deck can be played skillfully for sure, but um, yeah, it is nice to see. Like even if Prism and Viscera are like very powerful and like you know oppressive to some decks, it's just like at least they're it takes skilled piloting to like
Hmm.
pull out these wins.
Yeah, yeah, totally. So yeah, what do you think is gonna happen kind of in week three? And how do you think there's like going to be a deck that kind of has a good matchup into both of these Prism and Viscera decks?
I mean that's like the $1 million question, right? And something
Yep.
that I've been thinking about just from my like narrow little window of like Ranger, Brute, and Kano.
Yeah.
um, but so one takeaway I have is day two. Well, we can talk about day two in a minute
Yeah.
here,
Yeah.
but
Go ahead.
uh, day two, a bunch of Reinars showed up, and I'm unsure if Reinar is really the counter for Prism anymore. It felt like a bunch of players maybe chose this deck to as a Prism counter, and maybe it can still get there, but Prism doesn't really care about 6 attacks anymore. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
nice to like pop their heralds. I mean, that's like convenient and better than not, but that's not really their primary game plan. And Rhinar is not a particularly go wide deck. If you whiff on scab skins, you really have no advantage in popping auras. So I guess that's one thing I've been thinking a lot about is like maybe this like Rhinar showing up for Prism is not the way to go.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Like just picking a hero with 6 attacks, multiples of them, is like not the way to go. And then plus like even with your what you're like saying, well, they don't have cards that block and then I can intimidate them. It's like the same thing when you try to cripple and crush them, they can just play out their cards that they wanted to anyway. Like
Yeah.
sure they have to respond, to barraging beatdown as the first thing with less information on what your turn is going to be. Um, but your ability to manage their board state as Rhinar is like not as easy as it is in maybe some other decks. So if they can like, get 2 auras out, get 3 auras out, you're going to be starting to get pretty far behind and getting ground out.
Yeah. There is, to like counter what I just said, if you do intimidate them and they don't want to instant speed play an aura, um, you could intimidate their defense reaction in hand and then just leave them with no blocks or they're like blue
Mm.
auras or whatever. So I think that that's definitely definitely an advantage in this matchup. I just don't quite know if it's enough. Um, it's a bit hard for Reinar to get go again, but you do have the club to pop wars at the end of your chain. Um, we'll see how it plays out. We'll see if any Reinars actually do show up. My other uh, qualm about Reinar, or like hesitancy, is just like the Starvo matchup feels maybe pretty tough unless you just have a
Mhm.
massive board of like club fatigue, you know,
Yeah.
like 12 defense reactions or whatever.
Right. Yeah. Um, you know, kind of my only initial idea, uh, because like it's like, well, you don't really need to target both of those decks, right? It would be a good spot to be in if you can find that deck. I would assume most people are just going to adopt Prism or Viscerai or just like, continue to play Reinhardt. Starvo, excuse me.
Hmm.
But if somebody can come up with kind of like maybe a extremely aggro list, I think that would be pretty hard for both Prism and Viscerai to deal with. So maybe a like lightning Lexi list gets there. Um, maybe not, but it runs into the same thing that like all Rangers run into is you can get kind of screwed by inconsistency by not getting your arrows or too many arrows or that sort of thing. You just like have a whole separate thing to manage. But those decks are pretty uh intense now, like they're very cool. There was one Lightning Lexi floating around at ProQuest, but he unfortunately got like a really kind of short end of like the judge stick on a deck check. He like I think the rumor was around the event that he had thrown his like sideboard cards in like upside down, so like they weren't facing all the same way of their other cards, and that got counted as marked cards. Um, and so he got a game loss or a match loss or whatever.
Yeah, that's pretty unfortunate. So, yeah, what happened is the judges tell you to present your deck as you would play it, right? So I think he threw his sideboard in and then had his deck there. And if you were actually going to cheat that way, that is, I guess, a feasible way to do it. But it's also just very easy to be like under pressure from the judges, and yeah, just throw your sideboard in, and then be like, okay, this is my deck, and like I would not have thought of that, and that could have happened to me.
Totally.
So
Yeah.
that is kind of too bad. Yeah, there's a Voltaire free arrows, rain razors, three of a kind Art of War lightning list that's quite good. I think it won a ProQuest week one. Um,
Mm-hmm.
that is it's definitely fairly powerful. I was running a like a Death Dealer Lexi lightning list day two, but I kind of ran into the so I hadn't like extensively tested this, and could maybe learn a bit better about this matchup. But I just I I played a couple Viscerais instead of a couple Prisms, which I was kind of hunting for. And it was just like, I was like, oh yeah, you do 30 damage to me turn 2 or 3, which happened in each game respectively. And you have 10 armor. And, it's just like it's just better kind
Mm-hmm.
of. Maybe not consistently every turn, but they could just like block and then 32 damage the next turn. And it was just like, just a little bit discouraging that I was like, oh yeah, your red line aggro deck just has like quite a lot more armor and is a bit more explosive, or maybe not more explosive, but they came down to very close games. But it was clear as like, oh, this deck, in theory, performs pretty well against Prism, but is maybe at a bit of a disadvantage, or maybe even with Viscerai. So it's just not like the meta pick. You could find that Viscerai could counter a Lexi, like a lightning Lexi list, fairly consistency. or
Yeah.
consistently. But we'll see. Maybe the lightning list can find a little edge up there. I don't know.
Yeah. I'm unsure on how to tackle both of those decks with one deck. But a couple of things to riff off of, excuse me, what you said. Um, Day two, you mean that there was another event at another Portland game store on Sunday. So there was another ProQuest at Fable Hobby. So it was like kind of like the Portland calling this weekend. So you could play on like a Friday event, a Saturday event, and a Sunday event, you know. So it was well done by those store owners to make such a big weekend out of it. Uh,
Yeah, which is the reason we traveled.
yeah. Yep.
Because it was worth
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
100%. Second thing, I would not classify the Viscerai deck as a red line aggro deck. Like you have over a third of your cards are blue, and like you're pretty willing to block a lot of times. I would probably call it more of like a, you know, mid range aggro combo deck. You know, it's not really like super red line.
Yeah, I
you know?
guess red line is the wrong
Yeah.
word. Because well, so that was like a bit of my frustration is that it performs like a red line aggro
Yeah.
deck,
Yeah.
right? If you're doing 30 damage turn 2, but then it's actually not that fragile. It has like quite a lot of armor, you know, more high like cards that block for 3 than like just like for the damage output or when it flexes aggressively, it's not fragile like Lightning Lexi or Katsu or Prism or you know.
Right.
So that's what I meant. So when you run up against it with another aggro deck, you're like, oh, this is just I'm just like a glass cannon, and you're actually quite resilient. You know.
Yeah. Totally.
So yeah, not red line. Do have blues, but
Yeah, I just wanted to make that distinction for everybody who's going to slide into your personal messages on Twitter and get mad at you. So, um,
fair enough.
yeah. Okay. So, what's next there, your
So
Highness?
I'll just haven't inherited the kingdom yet. I
Still the prince.
still gotta win something here. So I'll just talk about day 2. Taylor had to go home to do work and basketball work and things like that, unfortunately. But it was a blast having you there, Taylor, and having our little group get together in person and play and hang out and eat burgers and cheer on Yuki and stuff like that.
Totally.
So a few things about day 2. It was also a really great event put on by Fable Hobby. I think it had almost, it might, I don't know, 59, 60 players, something like that. Yuki and I actually took, it's not the same list, but it's a similar idea. Kind of a Lightning Lexi trying to, you know, better counter Fatigue Starvo or Old Him or Prism especially. But out of all those people, we drew each other round 1. So that was kind of a bummer. Pretty fun game. Probably lasted like 9 minutes, and then it was over. After that, like I said, I just played a couple like very skilled players on Viscerai and barely lost both of them. Like I said, maybe there's a way for me to get there with that list, but I'll have to adapt it a little bit. So then I ended up 3-3 on the day, which was, pretty disappointing. But again, it's like I could have won either of those matches or both, or won the first one and then maybe moved up to the higher tables and faced more prisms or whatever. So I still felt like it was a decent idea, just maybe didn't quite go my way. Yuki did pretty well on it. She lost to me in round 1 and then got reckless swung by a like fatigue or control club Levia in round 5.
I think
She also got
did
a
that
CNC pummeled that game. So
didn't that Levia top 8 that event too?
I'm not sure actually.
Mm.
Yuki had to get dinner and drive home, and we didn't stay till 10 at night or whatever. I went and hung out with a friend of mine in Portland and stuff. So I'm unsure, but if it won round 5 there, it probably did.
Hell yeah. Let's
Yeah,
see.
pretty cool.
Oh, maybe not. Maybe it didn't top 8. I thought it did.
Hmm.
Never mind.
Yeah, it might have had a win in round 6 or something.
Abe Reinar top 8'd though at that event.
Oh,
Yeah.
cool. Well, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Reinar is the prism answer still.
I mean, it did not. It was mostly Viscerized. There were 4 Viscerized in that top 8. 1 Bravo, 2 Prisms, and 1 Reinar. And Viscerai wound up
Nice.
winning it in the mirror.
Nice. So that event, I mean, the representation was pretty similar to the event we were in, plus a number more brutes. I think was basically the one change.
Mm-hmm.
There was a Benji running around, and at 17 health, you heard me right, and actually like got a win or two. I saw a game where he got a Earth Briar down to 1 life before losing. Which is like maybe pretty disgusting.
Totally. I know
if Benji can compete.
We keep calling for like, hey, let's get adult heroes, or whatever of these Crucible young heroes. Maybe not though. Maybe not.
Yeah,
maybe it's fine.
Especially not Benji, I think.
Maybe it's fine. They're fine.
Yeah, leave him down there.
Yeah. So one thing I did want to say as like we kind of wrap up about the events and stuff, like another big takeaway for me was, the games were great and fun, and it's, Flesh and Blood's so great to play. But the best parts, I think, are the people you meet and the friendship you get to make, like going with you guys and getting to talk in the hotel and having breakfast together in the after party on Saturday, where we had just spent, all day talking Flesh and Blood, and we decided to go like get some brews, across town with everybody else who was at the party and or at the event, and just hang out and play, or not play games, but drink and talk about the event is like kind of more fun than the actual event itself, the shared camaraderie and that sort of thing. So it's just good to remember those things, that it's the stuff in between games that is like just as good. And that's kind of an incredible thing to have just in the world, period, to have such great human interactions that they like, rival one of your favorite activities. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, I completely agree. Um yeah, I enjoy everything outside of playing the games almost more than the games themselves. I mean, I really enjoy playing the games, but it's just, it's a great weekend because of the whole package, for sure.
Yeah.
Like if it was just stone cold, no hanging out, no chit chat, no nothing else except the competitive tournament, I would not be as into it.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I can get behind that type of crap, but the friendship afterwards is what makes it one of the things I want to continue to do with my life, and start a podcast and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and thanks again to everybody who said hi or chatted or was just like so cool.
Totally. Yeah, really great. It's like one of the best things to hear from y'all in person or on the internet. It means a lot. It's so hard to like explain how much that means when, uh, you know, perhaps you also don't make content on the internet. It seems like a pretty like regular thing to do, but it really does mean a lot to every content creator, big or small, when you reach out to them. So just keep that in mind. If you're listening to somebody's stuff or and you haven't like left them a comment saying like, "Hey, been listening forever. You're doing a great job," think about doing that. Really makes their day for sure.
Yeah.
And then with that, let's move into our signature segments. But let me guess, you have more to talk
Uh,
about before we get there.
well, yeah, but you always just move in without asking me.
Well, I did it this time as a joke.
That's why I always have something else to say.
I knew we weren't done.
No way. We're doing hot meta takes. Do you have any hot takes?
No, I don't. I think I've been pretty clear about them leading up to this.
Okay. Well, then I'll just go.
Yeah.
I have a couple
Good,
hot
yeah.
takes. First hot take. Amulet of Warfare is absolutely fucked up, disgusting. Ban that card. That's my first take. I'm serious. And my other hot take is that Talisman of Ironhide, I think, is actually extremely good in like Oldhim or something. Simply because you can, if you're in a tight spot, you can pitch it to, crown and shield and Ironhide legs or whatever, or you could arsenal it and cycle it away. It's like not actually, it's
Right.
not like you have a card that doesn't block.
Mm-hmm.
Or ideally you can play it out and then you can just block for like 20 in a turn instead of 14.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very glad that Prism's around to police Oldhim so that does not happen. But seriously, I really well, I can't regret it because they did it, but I really lament the invention of Talisman of Warfare. I hope that I don't know, that card goes away.
Okay. What else you got? That was it?
That's about it.
Okay. Great.
I already talked about my other hot takes.
Sweet. Can we move on to signature segments now? Are you prepared?
Yeah, totally.
Okay. Here we go. Signature segments. I think we're going to start off with pick, pass, pray here. So, Isaac, it's a draft scenario. I'm going to give you 3 cards. You're going to tell me which one you're going to pick, pass, and pray comes back around. Are you ready?
I am.
Okay. First up is Honing Hood. Ranger Equipment Head. Defends for 0. It has an instant ability. Destroy Honing Hood. Return all cards in your arsenal to your hand. Then put a card from your hand face down into your arsenal. Okay. Second card is Thump. It's a red, costs 4, pitches for 1, defends for 3, attacks for 6, and is a guardian attack action. It reads, while Thump's attack is greater than its base attack, it has dominate. And if this hits a hero, they discard a card. All right. Third and final card, Lightning Press Red. Pitches for 1, costs 0, has no defense, and is a lightning instant. And it reads, target attack action cards with cost 1 or less gain +3. Back in my day, folk used weapons made of metal. Lishu, Crimson Haze, Vigilante. Okay, Isaac, which one are you going to pick, pass, and pray comes back around?
I'm going to pick Lightning Press Red, and I'm going to pray Honing Hood comes back around. My reasoning is Lightning Press Red is quite powerful in this fast format to push damage. It also fuses. It's good in Lexi or Briar. It's also a rare and, can close out games, etc., etc. Honing Hood is actually like pretty key in Lexi, because one turn per game you can arsenal anything, like an extra arrow you have or whatever, and then, you know, honing hood in your ice or lightning card, and then Lexi it and still get the benefit. It's actually a really powerful piece of equipment. It just requires you to be in Lexi, which is like kind of a dangerous pick early, right? Like if you're in Lexi, you want to be one of the only one or two Lexis and have quite a powerful deck. So I would not pick that pack one, pick one, even though some equipment you would want to pick pack one, pick one. Thump is also a very powerful card, but in my opinion, only if you have Cracker Jacks. There are other ways to buff it to get the effect, but the card in of itself costs 4, so it's fairly expensive. There's scenarios where you can pair it with an Earthlore Surge or whatever, but it's just kind of expensive to play out and way weaker without Cracker Jacks. It's also a common, so if you end up getting a Cracker Jacks, odds are you can pick up a Thump later.
All very good points. All super good points. I think, gosh, I don't really know where I want to go. I think I probably just agree with you also. But I could be in a scenario where I would pick up Honing Hood over Lightning Press.
Nice.
Just because I don't think that's what I'm going with, but there's just a scenario where there's just not another great option in that equipment slot. And it is not likely you will see that card again, albeit like not integral to the most powerful Lexi deck, but it certainly does not hurt to have that. But the fact that you are passing the Lightning Press to your opponents would make it hard to then like continue to draft Lexi, because you're kind of showing that Lightning is open. So I'm going to pick Lightning Press also. Pray Honing Hood comes back around, and then pass on Thump. Because there's probably like a better, I mean, there 100% is a better Guardian card to pick one, than Red Thump. Even though it blocks for 3, but it's still a red that is like very specific,
Nice. I also feel like Honing Hood being passed is like a good wheel, because odds are it won't make it to you, but if it does, nobody's jumped into Lexi early. You can almost guarantee it.
Yeah, for sure. And plus, you're really looking for Mark of Lightning anyway in Lexi. That's kind of like what you really want.
Yeah.
So, which I know is in arms. Okay. I know it is. Don't be yelling at me. Yeah. Because you definitely want a Honing Hood over a Ragamuffin's hat any day of the week.
Totally.
That's your only other option in that deck, which is kind of a bummer. Okay. Isaac, do you have a riddle me this, or are we moving on right into game from the closet?
I don't have a riddle me this.
Then it's your game from the closet, my friend.
So here at the Attack Action Podcast, we love many different board games, not just Flesh and Blood. And I would like to share one of the board games I love with you guys today. And hopefully you will enjoy it as well. Today's board game from the closet is my pick. And I'm going to choose I can't remember what it's called. X-Wing.
Yep.
Right? Sorry, this is a board game that Mitch owns all of the miniatures for, so I was not entirely sure on the name. But it's a really, really enjoyable miniatures game that you can have quite a lot of fun with just like a limited number of miniatures. We played the other day, the 3 of us. I've played just with Mitch, just the 2 of us. And you can get really into it and have a bunch of ship upgrades and a whole bunch of ships. But you can also just have a blast with a small squadron each. And, as with a number of miniatures games, kind of the enjoyment comes from the movement and trying to outwit your opponent. Right. I'm not sure if every game works like this, but you all pre-program the movement on all of your ships and then reveal them simultaneously. So each of your squadrons performs its maneuvers, and hopefully you outwitted your opponent and you're shooting them in the butt, and they're unable to shoot you. So it's like a low investment or an easy to get into and very fun game. I'm sure there's like YouTube videos on it if you want to just check out how the mechanics work and how fun it is. You get a number of points as with miniatures games to load out your squadron. So there's of course a deck building or whatever aspect to it. But it's quite, as somebody who's not really that into miniatures, it's quite enjoyable.
Yeah, it lowers the barrier of entry because they're all pre-painted, pre-assembled. So you don't have to do anything except for open them up and learn how to play the game and start playing with them. So it lowers that barrier of entry quite a bit. Yeah, and it's really fun. It does exactly what it set out to do. Is like you're in a dogfight in space,
Yeah.
And yeah, it has the potential to have really exciting moments where you perform your maneuver and your opponent is like, oh, I totally forgot that was an option, so
Yep.
it tells a good story too, which is like the hallmark of a good board game, is that you're getting the full experience out of it. So
Yeah, definitely. You can perform like crazy, like speed forward and about face maneuvers, but you kind of like break your engines doing it because it's like too many G's or, whatever. I guess not. But anyway, it is pretty fun. I also like the fact that you don't have to paint them because I think the ideal Isaac really loves to like paint miniatures in my Zen garden, and I'm very like, just in the moment. But in reality, I like don't make time for that kind of thing, and there's like too many other things. So I just never get there as far as painting miniatures.
totally, it is pretty fun. Okay. Anyway, that is our show. Again, huge shout out to the whole Portland crew and Meta and everybody in the Portland area. Y'alls are great. If any of these stores we mentioned today put on any sort of event, and you have the time to go there, I recommend going there. They've set the bar very high and it's unprecedented, and you will have just a wonderful, wonderful time. And, Portland is a great city. So, yeah, it's a win-win scenario.
Yeah, their game stores are really next level.
Totally.
Did you have a favorite play of the weekend you want to end on?
Favorite play? I would probably have two. So one, I had some rune chants up, and I wound up with a Rattlebones in arsenal, Rattlebones in hand, and a rune flash, and then the little amount of resources you need to make that happen. And a Mordred Tide. That's what made it all happen. So I basically play Rattlebones, play Rune Flash, and then Rattlebones, what did I do? It was something where
Rune
I
Flash,
played
double swarming.
No, I think I did Mordred Tide, Rune Flash, Rattlebones the Rune Flash, Rattlebones the Rune Flash
nice.
again. I think I had to break Skeleta in there somewhere and then came in with Rosetta. That was pretty sick and gross. And then in my game against Justin, I had kind of sequenced my turn. I had a Sonata in hand, and instead of playing it first to like have all of my options for the turn, I used it as like the last card in hand to either get one more resource or get a free attack. Because by playing the Sonata, it made my third rune chant. So I either needed just any resource to swing Rosetta for 4 and 3 to close out the game, or get a amplify or a rune flash or something like that to push a little bit more damage and that sort of thing. And it worked out. I grabbed an amplify, YOLO'd an amplify right off the top, and that's all she wrote. So
Nice.
there's like kind of a more complicated, lead up into that play, but it was, it's just like Rune Blade complicated, and
Makes you feel good playing it.
yeah, totally. So yeah, I actually did not even get to play, I think, one Revel in Runeblood. It just like never, I never got to play that card for whatever reason. All tournament.
Well, you will in the future.
Totally. How about you?
All right. I had one, but now I'm gonna do two. So the first one is I went first, and then so my second turn, like turn 2 or whatever, I came in for 14 dominate, 3 frostbites on hit for a total of 4 that turn, and arsenal the card, which was dope.
Gross.
And then the following day on lightning, I had one play where I like attacked with something. This wasn't the first play. Then I weave lightning, light it up, fuse with lightning press, which is like my favorite gross play, because you're coming in for 7, threatening 10 with the lightning press, but that'll go to 14 and shut down their equipment. So then they have to overblock it, accounting for the lightning press. And then you just don't play the lightning press. And then I played a snatch and lightning press that afterwards. Which is just, it's like so bad because they're in a lose-lose situation, right? Like, well, I don't want to take 14 here from this one attack, but there's like no. It's just funny to fuse, light it up with lightning press.
Totally, yeah. That's why it was our first pick in Pick Pass Pray.
Oh, totally.
Yeah. Good.
All
good
right,
card.
That's all.
Cool. Great job. And we will see everybody a little bit later in March. Probably, I don't know, unless something insane happens, week 3. We'll probably see you at the end of ProQuest and kind of talk about the meta as a wrap up as we move into the next phases of the Flesh and Blood competitive season. So thanks for listening, and goodbye.
Good luck in your ProQuests, everyone. Goodbye.
Thank you for listening. You can find us on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram at the Attack Action Podcast. On Twitter, we are at BattleBro Taylor and at BattleBro Isaac. Shoot us an email, theattackactionpodcast@gmail.com.
If you would like to support us, like and subscribe, shop for singles using our affiliate link, or support our Patreon for as little as $4 per month.